The morning air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of dew-soaked soil and the faint smoke of early kitchen fires. The village below was still wrapped in mist, the outlines of rooftops half lost in the hush of dawn. But inside the small house, on the hill, something had already stirred, something warmer than the sunlight, beginning to filter through wooden shutters. Kevin shifted beneath the thin blanket, the cotton brushing against bare skin, still tingling with memories from the night before. He turned on his side slowly, breath catching just slightly when his eyes fell on Dito. There he was, one arm sprawled above his head, the other draped across the sheets. His chest rose and fell in slow rhythm, the light tracing the curve of muscle and the faint scar beneath his collarbone. His face, usually so defined, fierce, commanding, was now softened by sleep. Vulnerable, beautiful. Beautiful. Kevin reached out, his fingers hovering for a second, then gently traced the line of Dito's shoulder. Not to wake him, just to remember, just to feel. His touch wandered, featherlight down Dito's arm, lingering at the dip of his wrist before returning to his chest, where he rested his palm flat, feeling the quiet strength beneath. We're here now. Together, his heart whispered. He leaned closer, pressing a kiss to Dito's bare shoulder, soft, reverent. Dito stirred slightly, murmuring something incomprehensible in his sleep, turning his face just enough for Kevin to catch the edge of a half smile. Kevin smiled too, lips still brushing skin. A soft sigh escaped him, not from exhaustion, but from something fuller. The weight of knowing this wasn't a dream, that the body beside him, strong and warm, belonged to the same hands that once shielded him as a boy, and now held him as a man. He tucked himself a little closer into Dito's side, skin meeting skin beneath the sheet. The warmth was addictive, the safety undeniable. And though the world outside was beginning to wake, in this room, time held its breath. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath Kevin's bare feet as he stepped into the small living room, the chill of the dawn air brushing his skin like a whisper. He opened a window, letting in the breeze, cool, earthy, and touched with the faint scent of firewood from nearby homes. In the distance, a rooster crowed, and the soft whistle of the kettle began to rise, gentle and steady like the pulse in his chest. Kevin poured the water into 2 ceramic mugs, the steam curling between his fingers. He stood there for a moment, holding the warmth in his palms, listening to the quiet. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Dito appeared, still wrapped in the haze of sleep. His loose shirt clung slightly to one shoulder, exposing the curve of his collarbone. His hair was tousled, his voice rough and low. "You left me," he murmured, his tone more teasing than accusatory. Kevin turned, smile curling at the corners of his lips. "You looked too peaceful to wake." Dito stepped closer. No rush, no words, just quiet intent. He moved behind Kevin and slipped his arms around his waist. The embrace was slow, deliberate, his chest pressed lightly against Kevin's back, breath warm against the side of his neck. "It's better waking up with you still there," he whispered, the huskiness of his voice vibrating softly through Kevin's spine. Kevin leaned back slightly into him, their bodies aligning instinctively. One of Dito's hands settled at Kevin's hip, the other trailing up to rest gently just beneath his chest, his touch firm, familiar, and grounding. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the world was beginning its day, but here, wrapped in heat, in silence, in each other, it still felt like night lingering just a little longer. Kevin finally turned his head slightly, enough for their cheeks to brush. "You say that every morning," he said, voice soft with amusement. "And I'll mean it every time," Dito replied. They stayed that way until the kettle quieted and the tea cooled, and even then, neither wanted to let go. After a simple breakfast still warm from the stove, and sweetened with shared glances, they stepped out into the morning. The path before them wound through the village like an old song. The soil was damp underfoot, the kind that remembered rain. Kevin walked beside Dito, their arms brushing occasionally, subtle, electric moments that lingered just a heartbeat too long. Children ran barefoot through the alleys, laughter trailing behind them like sunlight. Elders sat in small clusters beneath trees, their voices low and rhythmic, woven into the breeze. The scent of cooking fires drifted through the air, smoke, spices, and home. Kevin took it all in quietly, but his eyes kept drifting to Dito. Here, Dito wasn't just a soldier, he was part of something older, something rooted. The villagers greeted him with nods and murmured respect. But it was the ease in Dito's shoulders, the way he smiled back, that struck Kevin most. He belonged here, and Kevin walking beside him felt as if maybe he could too. Don't came the turns. The narrow off-paths tucked between tall stalks of banana trees and old stone walls. The shaded corners where the world dimmed just enough to feel like a secret dot. In those moments, Dito would stop just briefly. A glance, a silent question. Then he'd lean in and press his lips to Kevin's not hurried, not hidden, just there. Gentle, real, a kiss like a whispered confession, meant only for the two of them. Kevin's breath would catch every time. Dito, someone might see. He would whisper, the words trembling somewhere between caution and thrill. Dito's smile was always the same mischief and certainty woven together. Then let them. Kevin never truly meant to resist, and Dito knew it. The way Kevin's hand would linger at his chest, the way he'd lean forward even as he spoke those words, told a different truth. They continued walking, but now there was something new in the rhythm of their steps, an unspoken pulse. Every shared glance, every brush of fingers, felt heavier, fuller. By the time they reached the edge of the village, the silence between them was no longer empty. It hummed with everything they had not yet said, and everything they had already shown. The last traces of the village faded behind them as Kevin and Dito followed a winding trail through whispering grass. The world grew quieter with every step. Trees thinned, the sky widened, and soon they stood at the edge of a wide, wild valiant and eternal. They stopped where the wind met them, a place where the earth gave way to the open. Kevin stepped forward, letting the breeze wash over his skin. He closed his eyes, arms drifting out beside him, as though ready to be carried. Behind him, Dito said nothing. He simply watched the man he had known since boyhood now standing so free, so close, so his. A moment passed, then another, and then Dito moved. He came up behind Kevin and slowly, without a word, slid his arms round his waist. Kevin leaned into him instinctively, like a body returning to its home. Dito's lips brushed the back of his neck, a whisper of warmth. Kevin turned, and in that quiet field with no one watching but the sky, they kissed, not urgently, not quickly, but deeply. It was a kiss that felt like exhale, like all the restraint, all the distance, all the years between them had finally dissolved. They moved together, a slow exchange of breath and hands, discovering one another, not with hunger, but reverence. Each touch was a promise, each glance a confession unspoken. They sank into the tall grass, side by side, the wind dancing above them like a blessing. Kevin traced the outline of Dito's shoulder, the curve of his collarbone, as if memorizing the man he had always known but never fully touched. Their fingers intertwined, their foreheads rested together. The silence between them throbbed, not empty, but full of all the things they didn't need to say. Time passed differently, unhurried, unmeasured. Their bodies fit not in passion alone, but in peace. They moved as one, slowly, gently, like a song only they could hear. And when they finally stilled, tangled in one another beneath the sky, it felt less like an ending and more like something finally beginning. Kevin lay with his head against Dito's chest, eyes half closed, listening to the slow, steady beat beneath his ear. "You feel like home," he whispered. Dito's hand slid into Kevin's hair, his voice low and certain. "You are my home." Above them, the clouds passed lazily. Around them, the world held its breath, and within them, something had shifted quietly, permanently. The world felt still. They lay in the tall grass, the breeze moving gently around them, as if the earth itself was catching its breath. The sky stretched wide above, soft clouds drifting like quiet witnesses. Beneath it, Kevin and Dito lay close but tangled, skin warm against skin, hearts beating in a slow or shared rhythm. Kevin's cheek rested against Dito's bare chest, his ear tuned to the steady thump beneath. It was more than a sound. It was a feeling, safe, constant, real. His fingers drew lazy patterns over Dito's ribs, not thinking, just remembering. Dito's hand moved slowly along Kevin's back, fingertips trailing the length of his spine with reverent care. Neither of them spoke, but everything in their touch said enough. There was no need for words in that moment, only presence. Eventually, Kevin whispered, voice hushed and full, "I've never felt this safe before." Dito exhaled, his voice low and steady against Kevin's temple. "You are," he said, "with me, always." Kevin smiled faintly, eyes still closed, pulling himself closer until there was no space left between them. His leg curled around Daito's. Their bodies, though still, remained in conversation, subtle movements, lingering touches, breaths sinking like an old song. The sunlight above had begun to shift. Golden streaks grew longer, shadows painting soft lines across their skin. The field, once alive with wind and heartbeat, began to hush. Dio pressed a slow kiss to Kevin's hair, then his forehead, a ritual, a promise. Reluctantly, they rose. Their fingers found each other again, and this time, they did not let go. Dust clung to their clothes, grass to their skin, but they didn't care. Something had changed, not just around them, but in them. Side by side, hands clasped, they walked back toward the village, not as they had come, but as something more. The front porch welcomed them like an old friend, wooden boards warm beneath their bare feet, the soft clink of ceramic as Dito set 2 mugs of tea down between them. The afternoon light spilled across the steps in golden streaks, painting everything. In a hue of quiet tenderness, they sat close, not just side by side, but touching shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. Kevin's leg rested gently against Dito's, and neither of them moved to pull away. The silence between them wasn't empty. It pulsed with something fuller than words. Kevin leaned his head onto Dito's shoulder, his hand slipping beneath Dito's arm, fingers finding a resting place on his chest. His thumb brushed lazy, rhythmic circles through the fabric of Dito's shirt. "We could stay like this," he murmured, voice soft and half lost to the breeze. Dito didn't answer right away. He turned his head slightly, lips brushing the crown of Kevin's hair, a tender kiss that lingered there. His hand came to rest at Kevin's waist, warm and grounding, drawing him in just that little bit closer. "I was hoping you'd say that," he finally said, his voice deep, hushed, and steady. They stayed that way for a while, bodies leaning into each other, as if the shape of their closeness had always existed. Dito's thumb traced along Kevin's side in slow, absent circles, quiet gestures that said more than language could. Kevin shifted slightly, his head now tucked beneath Dito's chin, one hand pressed flat against Dito's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Every now and then, Dito's fingers would move to gently sweep strands of hair away from Kevin's face, or graze along the curve of his arm, light as breath. And when Kevin tilted his head up, their lips met, in passion, but in quiet affirmation, a kiss that lingered, soft and warm, the kind that didn't demand, just promised. When they pulled apart, their eyes stayed locked. No rush, no awkwardness, just stillness and understanding. This wasn't just comfort, it wasn't just desire, it was choosing someone, again and again, even in silence. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the porch, Dito drew Kevin into the circle of his arms. Kevin's head rested once again against his chest, his breath evening out in the rhythm of safety. And though the world beyond them would keep turning, full of noise and distance, here on this porch, love had settled in. Not just a new day, but the beginning of a home.
In shadows secret sleep, a whisper starts to bloom. My heart, it aches for love it takes to banish all the gloom. A silent gaze through crowded days, a longing in your eyes. We walk apart, a hidden art beneath the same vast skies. Forbidden stars, they light our way, a love the world won't see. But in this quiet, sacred space, it's only you and me. No spoken vow, no public bow, just intertwined desires. A secret fire burning higher, fueled by our forbidden fires. Your gentle touch, it means so much, a comfort in the night. A stolen glance, a tender dance, bathed in soft moonlight. They say it's wrong where we belong, a path we shouldn't tread. But every beat so bittersweet, by your presence I am led. Forbidden stars, they light our way, a love the world won't see. But in this quiet, sacred space, it's only you and me. No spoken vow, no public bow, just intertwined desires. A secret fire burning higher, fueled by our forbidden fire. when judgments surge, our spirits intertwine. A love so strong where we belong, a bond truly divine. Forbidden stars, they light our way, a love the world won't see. But in this quiet, secret space, it's only you and me. No spoken vow, no public bow, just intertwined desires. A secret fire burning higher, fueled by our forbidden fire. And as the dawn begins to break, our love remains unheard. But in our souls it takes its tolls, each silent loving word.